What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Horrorheads podcast. I am Rich Mallery, and I am here with my co-host, Jerry Lourenco.
How's it going?
It's going pretty well. Also joining us, we have a special guest tonight, a really good friend of mine, Jamie Grefe, who is a writer, filmmaker, artist, all-around creative person, so super stoked to have him on tonight.
Thank you, Rich. Happy to be here.
Yeah, no, great to have you here. So how I know Jamie is, a few years ago, he wrote a movie I was going to direct called Tokyo Decadence in LA, which was about a webcam model who gets in over her head. And it's a really cool script. I was super stoked to do it. And we were probably like 2 weeks from shooting it. And so many things got screwed up on the production. Like they were cutting our budget, cutting our days. The executive producers wanted to use actresses. I didn't. It just became a clusterfuck. And I ended up just bowing out of the project at the last minute. But that's how I know Jamie, and then just kind of kept in touch over the years. And Jamie was, I'm grateful that Jamie kind of came on and assistant directed on my last movie, We Are Wolves. So again, super stoked that he's here. We'll get to know him a little bit more in a little bit, but before we do that, I have had a really long week, as I think Jerry has too, and I do want to start drinking. So let's talk about it. I know Jamie and I both discussed we're going to do some Japanese whiskey. I know Jerry decided not to at the last minute, and we could call him a pussy or whatever we want for that. But I am drinking Toki Suntory whiskey, which I'm a big fan of. It is 43% alcohol, so 86 proof, and I've been drinking this for years because I always wanted to try Japanese whiskey, but a lot of it is priced really high. And this is like $37 and you cannot beat it. So that's what I'm pouring. Jamie, since you are also doing Japanese whiskey, what do you have?
はい、私のウイスキーが EY Tradition Mars whiskey, which I picked up, and this was kind of in the $40 range, but I really liked it because I actually used to live in Japan for about 6 years, and the name of the city that I lived in when I first moved there was actually EY, and they changed the name after a little while, but I saw this and I thought, this would be a really fitting drink to celebrate some horror with you guys tonight.
Nice. I actually almost picked that one up because I saw it and it was like pricey. It was like $40, but I was like, you know what? Let me go with what I know, and I'm a creature of habit. So maybe on the next one I'll get that. Jerry, what do you got there that is not Japanese whiskey?
We did watch some films this week, and in honor of Peeping Tom, can anyone guess what I'm drinking?
Jamie, you're the expert. What is he drinking, Peeping Tom? I already forgot.
Oh shit, are you drinking some
The Johnny Red. Johnny Red.
Johnny Red. That was featured. It was featured throughout. Yeah. So that's what I'm pouring right now. I would never drink this in a normal situation. This would be a last pick, but I thought it would be fun to do in honor of Peeping Tom.
Yeah, I tend to do that too when I'm like watching a movie and I know they're drinking something particular. I will drink that. So I love the movie Sinister. However, I don't know if I've ever finished it because like Ethan Hawke drinks a ton of scotch throughout that movie, and I drink scotch when I watch it too. And I'm usually hammered by the hour mark. And maybe I finished it, maybe I haven't, but I can't help it. Every time he takes a sip, I take a sip. So speaking of taking sips, I'm going to take a sip of this Toki Suntory right now, and I will let you know what I think.
Hell yeah. Cheers, everybody.
All right. Cheers.
Oh, bye.
Yeah, so I'm not a huge fan of the Johnny Walker Red. So tell me what are you tasting there other than like gasoline?
So this is not something that you would normally drink on ice like I normally have most of my drinks. It's very common. It's good for mixers. Every bar on earth probably has this, but I wouldn't drink it solo like I am tonight. But it's peppery, smoky, oaky, with a pretty heavy burn at the end. I think it's 90 proof, or no, 80 proof. So we'll see how it goes. I'm gonna do my best with this one, but definitely not a top 5 for me.
Yeah, what you drank last week was peppery too. You had the Bob Dylan, right? And that was super peppery. Is this like
I still taste the pepper when I take that sip. That was like about 35, 40 seconds ago. It's still there. It's
damn.
Oh man.
So I have a question for you about Johnny Walker, and Jamie, we'll get to your whiskey in a second. So I know Johnny Walker Blue is really high end and pricey, and I'll be honest, I've never had it. Can you tell me what the difference is? Because Johnny Walker Black and Red are terrible. Well, in my opinion.
So I'll move up the scale. So yeah, Johnny Walker Black is probably the first thing that you could really just start sipping on its own, but that really tastes like it was filtered through like a lot of charcoal. If you like that charcoal kind of burnt taste, go with that. But let me tell you something you would like. Johnny Walker Double Black is delicious. It has a real nice finish, and it's chocolatey. I think you would like that a lot. That's very, very good, and it's very affordable. There's a lot more in between. There's like green, there's gold, but when you get to blue, man, it is a different beast altogether. It's just so smooth and creamy and delicious. Like you feel like you're just like drinking like delicious water. It is like has a nice silky taste to it. Very, very smooth, but definitely a lot of proof in it. I love the Johnny Walker Blue. I'd buy it when I could afford it. Definitely.
So Jamie, tell me about how do you pronounce it again? EY?
EY, yeah. Well, I mean, the funny thing is, Rich, I don't quite know how to talk about alcohol so much. So I think when I smell it, it definitely smells like I can kind of smell the actual kind of, alcohol coming off of it. But it is a sweet burn. It's not too harsh. There's a smoothness to it, which is kind of surprising. It could be because I haven't really drank much of anything in some months that I'm just kind of feeling this now for the first time. But so far, so good. Maybe I'll just slug it back like apple juice. It kind of looks like apple juice. It's got it's got a nice juicy texture to it, kind of a piss consistency, like a dehydration. But
do you have ice in there?
No,
It looks like you're drinking it neat.
no, I'm just drinking it neat.
Holy
With
shit.
water in it. Yeah. Yeah.
You're a better man than I.
It's going to be one of those nights. I mean, based off the movies that were chosen for tonight, I mean, there's only one way you can go, and that's you have to go low. So, I mean, I think tonight we're going to get a little low.
All right. And you haven't drank in a few months. So I hope there's a hospital nearby.
Well, Rich, the funniest part is I think I had my last drink with you, and it was in December, and I think we were having a little kind of film get together up in Santa Clarita.
That is right. We have. Yeah. Usually people, when they see me, they do tend to drink, and I will take that as a compliment. So the Suntory that I'm drinking here, I love this. For me, it reminds me of Scotch. It's got that kind of like peat, dirty taste to it, but it's like not overly Scotch. It's a little bit lighter, a little bit more just smoother, but that's the first thing I think of is like not a super high end Scotch where it tastes like you're eating dirt, drinking dirt, but something more in the middle, something that's a little more lower end, but still good. So maybe like a white label or something like that. It reminds me of.
Hold that up again. Let me see that. No, the actual glass you're drinking right now. So that looks like super light and crisp. Is that right? Am I thinking there?
Yeah, it's definitely. So like I said, it's like a Scotch, but it's not overly, again, drinking a mouthful of garden dirt. It does go down really smooth. It's light. It's easy to drink. It's refreshing in a way.
Good, man. It looks like lemonade. It looks delicious.
I wish it was lemonade, but no, it's really good. I highly recommend it.
The listeners can't see it, but Jamie's drinking out of like a jug over there. That is a glass, man. Holy
wow.
cow.
And that's a heavy pour. Yeah. So for those of you who can't see this, Jamie literally poured half of the bottle of the wine into his cup, and he's already like halfway done with what he poured, and we didn't even start talking movies yet. So this is going to go off the rails really quick, but that's what we're here for, man. That's it. So
episode.
Yeah, right. The lost episode. So tonight we're going to talk about 3 different movies. We're going to talk about number 1, which is, and Jerry, correct me, I always say the name of this movie wrong. It's Lowlifes.
Lowlifes, yes.
Right, which is a new movie on Tubi that we wanted to check out because people are talking about it. And then Jamie chose a couple of movies for us to watch, and they're movies that I have never seen before. And again, correct me on this one. It's Dead Dudes in the House, also known as The House on Tombstone Hill. Is that correct?
That is correct. Also known as The Dead Come Home.
Oh, okay. So multi-title. And then we're going to talk about the 1960 British movie Peeping Tom, all of which very different choices for tonight. So super stoked to get into it. It's always cool to watch a movie, again, an older movie that I haven't seen. And I've always heard about Peeping Tom, but just never got around to watching it. But before we kind of get into those movies, I did watch a movie this week. And when I asked Jamie to select some movies, he selected the 2 we're going to talk about. He also selected this movie called Sledgehammer, which is on Tubi, that I watched. It's from 1980, I believe. And Jamie, why the fuck did you select this movie? I'm watching this movie and I'm texting Jerry, I'm like, you do not want to watch this movie. And I would tell you, here's a couple things about it. Number 1, the quality is awful. And that might just be Tubi and the print that they showed Tubi, because I think it was probably shot on video in the 80s, and maybe if I would have rented it in the 80s it would have looked a lot better. So I'm going to excuse the quality of it, but 50% of this movie is in slow motion. And I don't know why. There's certain things, okay, you get it's dramatic, but there's scenes of guys going to reach for a doorknob in slow motion, and it's a 30-second scene, and I'm watching this thinking I'm insane. I'm like, why am I watching this movie? So Jamie, I know you really enjoyed this movie. It's a slasher movie. But what is it that you liked about this movie that you wanted us to watch, other than making fun of it?
No, Rich. That's all that all tracks really well. I don't even think there's a higher quality print of the movie that kind of exists to the public, and it almost feels like one of these movies that's almost like a forbidden experience. Like you shouldn't even be watching this
Yeah, I
because
shouldn't have.
yeah, as well as you said, there are moments in the movie that just kind of drone on, and that kind of droniness to the movie has always actually pulled me in a very genuine way. To the extent that actually, when I wrote this script that I was working on several months back, which is a slasher film, I even went so far as to storyboard out like the first, complete first chunk of that movie, just to really see like how it was visually broken down. Actually, that movie is a really big inspiration for me. I love the pull of slow cinema, actually, and I love the kind of a haziness that the movie kind of creates. And I don't know if you guys noticed this or not to jump ahead too much, but we did see a bit of a nod to Sledgehammer in Lowlifes. I'll give you a big hint. It involved a big sledgehammer. Now I might be putting that. I watched that and I was like, holy shit, man! Like dragging the sledgehammer across the floor. So the movie. Another thing about that movie is the director also did. He did a ton of these kind of action movies in the 80s. He did one called Deadly Prey. Have you ever seen that movie? Have you ever seen
I don't think
Deadly
so.
Prey? Yeah. It's kind of a classic in this kind of so bad it's good kind of territory. But
Those
but
Up All
Sledgehammer
Night
to me
movies.
was yeah. Sledgehammer was really a kind of lovely experience in just kind of dark, haunting, droning way. So,
It
but
definitely drones, yeah.
hey, it would have been a 5 Niver for me, Rich.
Whoa.
Wow, holy!
Okay. You know what though? I mean, look, Jerry liked the movie Diced, and I think that was awful. But no,
I,
I mean, look, I was just I was watching it. It's a bizarre fucking movie. And look, the sledgehammer is an interesting weapon that you don't see, and I love that. This movie, it made little sense to me, and I think that's what just threw me off, just the technique of it. There's like certain shots where you're like, you know what it made me think of, and not the same movie, but like I don't know if anyone's seen that Skinamarink movie where, and I hated this
skipped
movie,
it.
but it's yeah, good skip. But there's literally like a shot of like the ceiling, the corner of the ceiling for like 5 minutes, and that's what it made me think of, like that kind of technique where they're just showing you something, and maybe there's a purpose for it, maybe there's not. Maybe I needed to be on a different level to kind of get it, but yeah, I'll be honest. I was not a fan of the movie. I stuck with it. I watched the whole thing. If you want to, it is something different, right? If you want to see something different and are able to excuse quality, I'm not gonna say check it out, but I saw it. I watched it. So getting to know Jamie a little bit before we kind of talk about the movies. So Jamie, again, you've done a lot, right? Like you do a lot of different things. I know screenwriting is probably one of the main things that you kind of do. I would love to kind of know, like, what are some scripts that you've written that you're super proud of that got made into movies that people can kind of check out, and kind of what were you thinking about when you did them?
It's been a really interesting journey, and when I think about myself in relation to art, I go back to my earlier years of work that I was really proud of. I used to be very active making noise music, actually, and that's something not a lot of people know. But when I was in Japan, I actually would kind of manipulate sounds, and I would record my voice, and I even performed live several times with some very big kind of experimental artists, and I really got into that kind of audio side of creation. And it wasn't until maybe around 2012 or 13 that I really started writing. Actually, I started writing fiction, and it's probably one of the things I'm most proud of and will always be really proud of is the first book that was published under my name, which is called The Mondo Vixen Massacre. And the reason I kind of talk about the noise, bring up that kind of noise music time of my life, is because the Mondo Vixen Massacre, I wrote a bunch of short stories, some of which got published. The first story got rejected like 42 times. Finally, it got published, and I got a little itch and a little taste of that. But then I finally got the ability to write a novella that got published. And the Mondo Vixen Massacre was this almost like onslaught of the erotic meets violence. And, it's about a home invasion. I know you guys are big home invasion heads. And it's literally about a home invasion, but the home invaders are a gang of just gorgeous, what we call vixens. So they're just all kinds of kind of cosplayed vixens, and Can we swear on this podcast?
Fuck yeah.
Okay. I mean, they're very fucking sadistic. And the book starts where the whole town has been just kind of overrun by these vixens. And this guy comes home and his fucking family's dead, and he has to kind of face that and kind of get some retribution. I'm very proud of that. And it's funny because that was now, like, we'll say like 10, 11 years ago. But when I look at work that I'm very proud of, that's definitely one that kind of hits. As far as screenplays go, I think I'm sad to say, but I'm actually quite proud of a script I wrote some years after that called Shark Babes, which was directed by the great Jim Wynorski, who directed Chopping Mall and Sorority House Massacre 2, and he directed all kinds of things. Jim Wynorski's like a protege of Roger Corman, and I got to write 4 scripts for him, and 2 of them got sold to Showtime and all this stuff. They are like kind of softcore comedies, but super proud that he took a chance on me and hired me to write 4 scripts. And then I guess just to say, just in closing this out, I'm just really happy to work with Gregory Hatanaka, who you know very, very well. And regardless of any of the scripts that I've actually written for him, which have been probably about like close to 20, they're all just little sledgehammers to me. They all just kind of exist in this weird like experience of like, you get a phone call on a Tuesday night and somebody needs a script by like Friday, and then it kind of shifts from there. So I'm proud of all of them in their own weird, ugly way. Probably the uglier they are, the more I kind of stand by them. Just being able to work with some really creative people, yourself included, helps me kind of define my creative side. And recently, Rich, I'll just say, and Jerry, I've been working on a project that's we can say it's in development, and it's really operating in some kind of new territory for me, and it's very exciting. So more to be said on that down the line.
Yeah, a couple of things on that. One is I do admire how fast you could turn around a script. I remember when we were going to do Tokyo Decadence, I gave you the story or the outline or whatever I gave you, notes, and you had a draft like within a week, and I was like, holy shit. For me, it takes a lot longer of a process. Like, even if I'm super motivated, it takes me a few weeks to put together a feature-length script. So I admire that. And the other thing about the Wynorski films is, I think for the first time, Jerry and I watched Chopping Mall this year, actually. And I loved it. And I can't believe I'd never watched it before. And I thought that was great. And Sorority House Massacre 2 is classic. One of the I grew
How
up
about
watching
3,
that.
I've
I've actually never seen 3.
Is that the one with the guitar player?
No, you're thinking of Slumber Party Massacre.
Slumber Party. Wait, all right. So already have 3.
No.
Which one's that?
The funniest thing about part 3 is that it's probably in some markets somewhere out there, it's called part 3. But what it was called when I originally saw it, and what it's known as today, is it's called Hard to Die.
Yes, I have seen that. Yes, I have seen that.
And like it's like there's like the character from part 2 that appears in it. It's like an unofficial sequel, and it takes place in a skyscraper, and it's all these bikini clad women running around being kind of hunted by a possessed killer. So
yeah, I only saw Hard to Die once. It was a long time ago, but I remember I was like, oh, this is the same exact actresses that are in Sorority House Massacre, and it's basically a bunch of lingerie models in a skyscraper getting killed. Yeah, it's
listening.
You're into it. Yeah. I'll have to find that again.
You have to go look for that.
Yeah. So before we get into movies, one more question for you, Jamie, and we'll probably ask some more as we go on. But so I know you mentioned you were in Japan for some years, and I know you worked on some film productions while you were there. I guess the question I would want to ask is, what would you say some differences are between working on a set in Japan versus working on a set here?
The teamwork and the cohesiveness of the productions is unparalleled. The way that a project is kind of communicated quickly, because there was a very fast turnaround there as well. It was like, okay, so like they would have the screenwriter there was all a big open office. And so you have like the director, the producer, the screenwriter, everybody's in one big open office. So this guy's over here writing the script, and then he emails it to the producer looks it over. He calls the talent agency, they get the actors, they know exactly where they're going to shoot it. I mean, they're sending out the assistant directors, which I was one of the assistant directors. It's like, hey, Jamie, I need you to go out and get X, Y, and Z. I need you to help set up, A, B, and C. Everything would just come together so quickly. And then on set, everyone, I mean, there's no fucking around. Nobody's late. Everything flows. And it's a system. It was just such a system. And it's a hierarchical system too. So being the new guy, they told me right away, we're not going to treat you any differently just because you're a foreigner. Don't think you can jump rank. They said, you're going to come in early, and we want you to vacuum. You're going to change the trash. You're going to make copies. Then you're going to start doing whatever needs to be done. You don't go home until the boss leaves at night. I know that sounds very harsh, but actually there's a lot of like tough love behind that too. And so I learned the value of creating within that kind of dynamic of like when you come together to work on a production, you matter. And I think when I worked on your movie, We Are Wolves, I really tried to kind of embody, go back to that time and kind of embody that on your set, not knowing what your other movies were like, and I think that movie We Are Wolves came out, it was like a pretty good shooting experience.
Only pretty good.
I gotta say,
the most amazing experience of your life, right?
all I gotta say, Rich, is I think you would have been much happier if you would have had your little kitty cat with you the whole time.
Absolutely.
You were
yeah, I do miss my cat.
But Rich, it was a well-oiled machine, and I think that's what like we were able to pull together just a fantastic movie in a short amount of time. And I think in working in Japan, I really realized just how to kind of be a part of that group. And then if everybody can be a part of that group, you can make a really good movie, like Sledgehammer, for example. Or something.
Good example. I'm sure that was a well-oiled machine when they made that movie.
That was, it was.
All right, cool. Let's get into the movies at hand. So let's talk about Lowlifes. And Jamie just showed that he is a third of the way done with his bottle of whiskey.
and I think he also mentioned he gave your movie like a C- as far as the production.
It was basically the worst experience he ever had. So, and in Japan, it's way more, it's way better to work, but that's fine. It's okay. No, Jamie was great, and
Rich, it was
couldn't have done it without you. So, all right, so let's talk about Lowlifes. So, Jerry, you want to give us the plot on this one?
Sure. Lowlifes. Pretty brand new film, 2024. Tesh Gotokanaka and Mitch Oliver are the directors. They're fairly new. I think the only person that really had any sort of background was Tesh, who wrote that film Influencers that came out last year, had pretty big buzz. It was on Shudder. It was an okay film, but that's probably really what they're known for. But yeah, Lowlifes, a nerdy J. Crew type upper class LA family. They're like out RVing in the backwoods on a road trip. They come across some locals that appear to be threatening, and they're looking for a missing family member out there in the woods. And it's a rather strange, awkward encounter between the two families, but then they eventually part ways. But the traveling family runs into them again because the locals' truck breaks down. After again some awkwardness, they feel obligated to give one of them a ride home, which seems like it's probably going to go bad for the traveling family. But there's a big plot twist in this film, and the traveling family is actually a pack of cannibals on a hunting mission to stock up some bodies to store and eat back in LA. And I think there's a lot in there to talk about. So.
Yeah, and I didn't see that twist coming, and it does come early on in the movie. You know what it kind of reminded me of in a way? The way they did the twist is, what was that movie, Better Watch Out, the Christmas movie? I think it was Christmas movie. Better Watch Out. Yeah, where there's like, it's going one way, and then there's a twist that comes out of nowhere and kind of completely changes the tone of the movie. I will say about this movie, there's things I like about it for sure. I did have one major problem with it, and that was tone. What I mean by that is it reminded me, it's a better movie than this one, but it reminded me of that Suitable Flesh movie that we watched, where I'm not sure what the tone is. Like, is it supposed to be a comedy? Is it a horror movie? Like, there was a lot of elements thrown in that I thought like, oh, that's weird. And I struggled with like, what kind of movie is this? Because at times it gets like almost like trying to be over the top comical, like the dad's getting one-liners towards the end when he's, torturing a character, and even some of the camera angles. So I was kind of, I don't know, I struggle personally again when movies are not like, I'm okay when movies are diverse and change, but for some reason I couldn't tell, like, should I be scared? Should I be invested? I had a hard time with it. I don't know.
I mean, that's definitely interesting to me. It was like a campy, dark comedy mixed with extreme violence and gore. So depends on what side you liked better.
Yeah, I guess maybe it just wasn't campy enough for me. Like it was close, but it wasn't there. But I thought there were things I liked. I think the gore and makeup was really good. I think the performances for the most part were really good. It's definitely something I haven't seen before that I liked. Like I liked how, again, this J. Crew family, who you think is going to be the victims and like the ones you're rooting for, are like complete opposite. That you know, it's the quote unquote hillbillies that are the ones you wanna survive, which was a completely different take. So I enjoyed that. And one thing I will say, this movie has one of the best lines I've ever heard in a movie where
I know what you're talking about.
yeah, and I'm gonna quote it. I'm gonna quote it where one of the characters says, "I'd rather eat pussy than people," and I thought that was fucking brilliant. And it comes after there's a character who is a lesbian who comes out to her family at a very uncomfortable time. She comes out to her family of cannibals, and yeah, I'd rather eat
This is a
pussy than
moment
people.
in film history right there.
I rewound that. I was like, wait, did she just fucking say that? And I got to write that down exactly. One thing I will say that I had trouble with is so when the cannibal dad finds out that his daughter is a lesbian, he's all pissed and super pissed and can't handle it. And like he says he's from Calabasas, which is like one of the most liberal places on the planet. Like, why would he give a shit? Yeah, it was so odd.
Yeah, I mean, I think the father was just an overbearing kind of narcissist type that was really using many tactics to keep his family in line. It was really debatable how into this project his wife was. The son clearly was interested, but he was like a young teenager and maybe didn't understand. The daughter was quite, you know, again, it was debatable. And I think he just used like every single element he could to kind of just keep hold of the family, kind of retain like that power over them, or he'll just, you know, dehumanize the victims and things like that, which I'm pretty sure that's where, like, you know, the film title came from, is that's how he just basically referred to all these victims. So you really don't think of them as people. And I thought he was a great character. I thought he was pretty funny at times. I mean, I never heard of him before. I think his name was Matthew McCall, and I don't even know any other films that he's done. But I thought he played that role so well, of switching between like this uptight, quirky dad into like this ferocious kind of like torturous killer. I thought he did a great job.
Yeah, no, I'll give you that. I think the only thing I struggle with, it wasn't the acting. I think it was just some of the writing that I have a hard time when people are just throwing jokes and one-liners into movies, where there was a bunch of that towards, and it didn't really come up to like the last act where all of a sudden he's again just like throwing all these jokes. It just like threw me off a bit, but I would say yeah, he was really good. I think the performances were really good. So Jamie, what did you think about this one?
This was a fantastic family film that you chose, and I'm very glad that you did choose it. So we're going to have a we're going to have a drink to that.
Okay, cheers. All right.
Absolutely.
I actually, it was really funny because you suggested this movie, and I was thinking about the dynamic between Dead Dudes in the House and Peeping Tom and trying to find some connection there. And then Sledgehammer was off the table. And then Lowlifes came in, and I was like, all right, like, let's check out this newer horror movie. Like, I don't watch many movies these days, actually. I tend to rewatch a lot of older movies. And I took a, honest stab at this one. And as you just said, it starts off with that very classic, rich family in the country. And then there's kind of the hillbillies come in, and it's like, okay, something's going to happen. Now, when they did make that shift and it was revealed that the family was actually killers, I mean, I snapped to attention. Maybe I'm just hungry for narrative these days, but I really was like, okay, like, you've got my attention. Like, what's going to happen here? Like, you're kind of throwing me off the rails. And after that, I really got pulled in to this kind of a weird, like you had said, tonally awkward world that is created in this movie. And if you really take a step back and think and feel this movie and experience it, it is very tonally strange. It's one of these movies that kind of shouldn't exist. I keep saying that, but it's kind of true, because there are moments where, as you laugh. Those lines are very ludicrous. They're very over the top. There's things in this that are very gross and confrontational. There's somebody's just about to kiss, and then it cuts to somebody, vomiting very intensely. There's torture, the fingers being broken.
That was gnarly. What that scene was, yeah, that fucked me up when he breaks the girl's fingers. Like, because again, the gore and makeup was really good, and I think they did a really good job of the way they handled the violence for sure, and it was effective. I agree with you there. Yeah, I can't argue that.
it kept me going where I was almost like it's kind of like slapsticky in some way when like the family like there's a, like at nighttime for those people that haven't seen the movie, you know, they kind of go to their rooms and they get to stay in a room in the house and they're like, okay, this is how we're gonna do it. We're gonna sneak out. It'll be easy, and it's almost like a caper. You know, it's almost like you just know, okay, they're gonna sneak around the house at night and try to kill this family. This is kind of an interesting horror territory. It's got that home invasion sauce in a way from the inside out, right? It's like the killer's already in the house, but then you know there are these elements that they set up on the outside too. Like for example, when the truck breaks down and it's blocked and they have to take one of the hillbillies back to the house, you know there's another one out there who's like gonna make the trek back home eventually, which will probably pay off at the end of the narrative. There's the sheriff that they introduce that you probably think, okay, something's going to happen with this. And they set up all of these little interesting breadcrumbs too. Like the first time they show these two sisters at the house in the country, they show the one like shooting her bow and arrow, right? So I'm immediately like, oh, there's going to be some bow and arrow action in this, you know? And then it's funny because there's even a line 38 minutes into the movie where the old man, you guys totally spoil these movies,
We
right?
spoil them. Yeah. We spoil the shit out of it. We can't help it. We're drunk. Yeah.
If you haven't seen it, you're a piece of shit. Okay, go see it. But the old man Neville, who gets an axe to his head, which is like fucking great. He says, like right before he lies down, he's like, "You think they're gonna kill us one by one and burn down the house?" You know, it's like the minute he said that, I was like, "Yeah, they're probably gonna kill you one by one and burn down the house." I was like, from a writer's point of view, that's so on the note. It's such a weird thing to put. Then they called there's like this big fucking dude who doesn't talk. He's got this. They introduce him. They put everybody at the dinner table like Texas Chainsaw Massacre style, and they think, oh, this is going to be an easy kill, and then you hear these footsteps upstairs like thudding, and they're like, who's that? Like, oh, that's just Big Mac. You know, you're like, what? And he's just big grunting guy. But then like he fucking dies, you know. And I loved that part of it where they really kind of they kind of keep you a little disjointed almost through like the whole movie, as ludicrous as it gets. And then by the end, I was so confused. Like I liked that girl. It's just almost like a reverse final girl, right? It's like should I like her? Like, was I supposed to feel sympathy for her, or was I supposed to? Should I just kind of embrace this kind of that she's coming out of this, you know? I don't know, like I don't have an answer to that, but I kind of leaned into it. I was like, I guess it kind of makes sense in the context of the movie, like that last kill where finally like the sister comes out of the house and the sheriff just shoots her, and you're just
oh yeah, that was brutal.
You're like,
yeah.
All right,
yeah.
You're like, there's just no explanation, no setup, and you're like, he fucked it up, just like he fucked up like the fence. Apparently, like there was some talk, some context.
You know what? You guys are swaying me a little bit because again, I watched the movie and I would say my gut reaction was, okay, I didn't like this movie, but I will say that you're absolutely right. It does keep you guessing. It is something I have not seen before, which is important. And I do think there are lots of times where it could go one way and you're like, okay, I've seen this movie before, and then it's a completely different movie. I think again, I like the kind of, I don't want to say it's a twist at the very end with the kill you're talking about, but it was like, it's one of those where it's like, man, you know, like you were about to get away for the one girl and it's like, nope, the killer's getting away here. And I thought that was well done. Yeah, I think I am gonna, I said after I watched, okay, I'd never need to see this again. I think I am gonna watch it again. So you both are kind of swaying me on that.
I watched it a few times and honestly I enjoyed it more, you know, the second time I watched it, because I caught a lot that I missed the first time. And I think another interesting twist in this film that you don't see too often is, I think, like, once the plot's laid out, we see what's happening. We know the J. Crew family is attacking, like, you know, this backwoods family. I think what's really interesting is that battle now between the two families. Usually in a horror film, it's there's like a stalker and there's prey, and the stalkers, you know, they're going after and they're just killing the people one by one. But in this film, both families were fighting so hard to survive, and honestly I didn't know which way it would go and who would actually come out of this, because they were fighting super hard and everyone was basically catching it. You didn't know, like once the father died, you're like, man, all right, so he's not the star of this film. You know, he's not going to make it. And then the sister, you're like, shit, it's like now who's going to be left? And it was a big kind of surprising with the reverse final girl that Amy did survive, because you weren't sure how you felt about her, because you didn't know what her next move was. Was she going to continue this life, or was she just going to start a brand new life? And I just thought those like struggles were really interesting in this film, and not really common in most movies like this.
I mean, I think she's gonna go eat some pussy, I think is probably what she's gonna do.
Seen something.
Yeah, no, I agree. Again, it definitely leaves a lot, makes you think, and I think I probably will like it on the second, but I think I will like it. And I will say this is the only movie I think I've ever seen where someone eats their own eyeball. So that was kind of good.
Yeah,
Never
I mean,
seen
it was
that
gross.
before. Yeah.
I mean, they mixed everything. They had blood, violence, gore, kills, you know, slasher, everything, body horror. They like mixed everything in. And for me, it didn't seem like just too crazy. Like when they did it, I feel like they did everything right, and it looked right. It felt good, because I was like, eating an eyeball, you know, you got to squint. I don't care who you are. You're like,
Yeah,
oh, that's
it's gross.
Oh, you know, breaking that finger real slow, and then they kind of show like the the remains of, like, oh man, that is like, you could feel it, you know. And I thought they did those parts so well. It kind of probably made forgive a lot of the like the issues with like the plot and maybe the tone. But honestly, I took it really light, so I found myself laughing quite a bit, just thinking about like when that guy Big Mac's killed the young son, who's like 15 or 16, kills him, Jeffrey, and the father sees him and he scolds him, and he's like, he acts like a father, you know, and he's like, wait till we get home, you're gonna go into your room, you're gonna think about what you did, and it's like, this is not over, mister, kind of like that tone. And to me, that was so funny, because he's basically training his son to kill people, but yet he didn't follow all the rules, so he was still a dad. And to me, like, parts like that were just, I don't know, is this like levity or just what they were trying to do with it, but I found it very funny, and it struck me very, like, it was right for me, it hit me right.
And also, look, I mean, this is a Tubi original, and you have low expectations for something that's like an original, right? The only other Tubi original I've seen, I know they've a bunch of them, is the Soska Twins Festival of the Living Dead that I talked about a few
How was that?
episodes ago. It was awful. It was one of the, it was just god awful. So you go in with low expectations on some of these platforms, like, because like when like a company like Tubi or whoever is making an original, what they're doing is they're looking at their algorithms of the movies that worked, and they're saying like, okay, these 5 movies are the best horror movies, let's combine them all into one movie and make one, regardless. Like, it's not just like, I'm gonna write this movie and we're gonna put it out. Like, I think there's a lot more manipulation going on, and I think for that it was really good. And I will say too, it starts off, it pulls you right in. Like, there's a brutal opening scene. That kill in the first 5 minutes is really good. Again, it sets everything up, and I would say that it's pretty action packed throughout. Like, it doesn't get boring, that's for sure. I'm already slurring too, and I feel like we just started.
We're only one movie in, we didn't even play the game yet. Damn.
I'm like struggling talking right now.
That's pretty funny.
Like, whatever I was just saying there, I kind of like,
yeah, we'll just edit that out if you didn't make any sense. Don't worry about that.
I was like mid-sentence, I'm like, I don't feel like talking anymore. I don't feel like saying anything, but I gotta finish this thought.
So I couldn't find any information about like the budget for this film. I mean, it looked great to me personally. I don't know. I couldn't tell you if this was a low budget or a medium budget film, just because I thought, like, the acting was phenomenal. I thought the effects were great. No CGI that I saw felt like practical effects. Everything that they were doing. Oh, the fire at the end, but you don't expect someone to set fire to a building. I mean, who has that budget? But other than that, I thought everything looked great, and I was just curious because, like, if they did this much, which like a small budget, then I want to give them even more props, because I thought it was, it turned out great, and I'm gonna look for more from these directors, because I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, if I had to guess, I would probably say 1.5 mil, around there. Maybe 1 mil is what they spent on it. That's just me guessing. Which, again, to me, I wish I had $1 million to make a movie, but that is considered low budget. So I would probably say that. And I think a lot of the money went to probably the gore and the effects, and just, I'm assuming it took them probably 3 weeks to make this movie, but I might be wrong.
That's a great point. The budget level was what it was, such that the talent that was attached to this movie, everybody looked so beautiful. I was looking at this movie and I was like, they're all beautiful people, which kind of kept me on the periphery in a way, because they were all very kind of, I knew behind the scenes, oh, these are like, even like the hillbilly type people, where you could tell, you could almost see the veneer of the actor behind them. But there was such a quality of acting that came through that I was still able to penetrate to the story. So I was kind of always fluctuating on this, like, is this a B movie, or is this like something I should be like kind of being pulled into? And surprisingly, everything pulled me into it. And so I think anytime a movie can personally pull me in, and I'm not just saying this because it's a movie chosen for the podcast, I was like impressed, to the point that I've now told like two people about this movie. I'm like gushing about Lowlifes to people, bringing up the same thing, like, well, I don't know what the budget is, because it's one of these movies. We exist now in a space of media production and consumption, that a movie like this comes out. Whenever it came out, I couldn't tell you. I never heard of it. It never crossed my plate, my attention. I never would have seen this movie. It would have just blended in with a sea of other movies. And yet it's out there. And, is it a mixture, an algorithmic kind of, maybe some kind of corporate manipulation to kind of fit in certain elements? Yeah, perhaps. But at the same time, it's also existing as a very bizarre piece of horror that's out there, that's well directed, well acted, well produced. There's a lot to love about it. And the fact that this just kind of invisibly just goes out, at least in my world, was like, it always kind of just mystifies me. Maybe that's just like my confrontation with media is usually like that. I'm just like, how did I not know about this?
You know what it is though? It's like, yeah, and it's great that there are platforms like a Tubi, and it's one of those like where you do have to keep checking back and looking for stuff, because again, yeah, this movie, I think it came out like a couple of months ago or even more recent than that. And it's we find it because again, it's a Tubi original and they're pushing it. But in one more month, it's going to get buried behind the algorithm, and you'll never even hear about this movie again, because there probably wasn't a ton of marketing on it. There's no theatrical. It just kind of, they dropped it on the service, and if you're here, you see it, and if you're not here, you miss it. So there's a lot of gems. There's a lot of shit on Tubi, and I would say a lot of it is, like whatever, but there's definitely some gems, but you just have to kind of be going back to the service, because you're going to see things like, yeah, you've never heard of, no one's talking about it, and you have a moment in time to catch this movie before, again, it's buried and gone forever, basically. Like it'll always exist, but you're not going to find it in like 3 years from now. You're not gonna be like, oh, Lowlife's from 2024, like let me watch that. You're gonna be like, no, I'm gonna watch something either new or something classic. So yeah, I think there's something to, again, how we consume movies now that's a little different, especially for these lower budget, more niche kind of films that aren't going to get a ton of marketing support from studios, that you just got to catch it while it's here.
I mean, I feel like Tubi took a big chance on this film. It is about cannibalism, and that's very hit or miss. Like that's a genre that people despise or they like. And if you even are into cannibalism films, I normally don't like this genre. It's not a genre I follow. It's not a genre I care about. It's not even a genre I'd look for a film. So it's a good thing that they kind of surprised that plot twist with this particular film, and it ends up being about that. But once I found out, I didn't hate it, So, but I'm like, man, what a chance, because as soon as that happens, people are gonna log right off, or they're gonna get engaged. And it had the a good effect for me where I logged in. So
yeah, and I would say that I wouldn't say I'm a fan of cannibal movies at all. There are a couple that I do like, and I guess I would love to, if you could think of one off the top of your head, what would you say? And you can't say it's like your favorite, but if you can, fine. But like, what's like a really good cannibal movie that you could remember?
I mean, people talk about Cannibal Holocaust like all the
I hate
time,
that movie though.
but yeah, I mean, but that's all right. But that's because of like the animal violence. But
Right.
as far as a film, though, it's in the canon of horror, because at that time, nobody would create something that extreme, and no one would tackle that topic, and they showed things that no one showed before. And
yeah, it's one of the
think
first found footage movies too, I would say.
Exactly.
If not the first, but yeah.
So I would say most cannibal films are probably noted for being extreme.
Yeah, so I can think of two that I really like, and they're both foreign movies. One is a French movie that I actually watched, Jerry, for your challenge last year, And we'll talk about more about Jerry's horror challenge when we get to closer to October. But there's a French film, Raw, that I really enjoyed. It was really good. And the other one is, it was a Spanish movie that they remade, but the Spanish movie I like better, We Are What We Are, that I really like. It's just a different take, and that's about a family of cannibals also. It's, I believe, I haven't seen it in a long time, but I believe the matriarch of the family dies. I'm sorry, the American one is different than the American one is the matriarch dies. The Spanish one is the patriarch of the family dies, and they have to figure, and he's the one that secures the meat. So the rest of the family, the mother and I think two sons, need to figure out how they start getting meat again now that their father has died. And the American version, it's the mother dies. How about you, Jamie? Is there a cannibal movie that sticks out to you?
Well, I happen to be a pretty big fan of cannibalism in general. When I was in college, a group of friends and I started making these little B movies. This was a pre-YouTube, but we kind of had these digital camcorders, and we kind of became a little collective of movie makers, and we called it the Cannibal Network. One of the movies we made that I helped come up with, and that it's a lost movie now. It's gone. It's a short, but one of the movies we made was called Meat Salad. And in Meat Salad,
What the
there's a
fuck?
group of friends from college. They all
Dude, you're
go
crazy.
to one. I'm fucking.
No.
I've got wires crossed. But
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead. Tell us the
no,
plot
no.
of Meat Salad, because I just
Meat
cut you off.
Salad is beautiful, and Meat Salad. They college reunion. They go to a house in the country in Michigan. Beautiful house. And they're all kind of getting back together, and everything's okay. And two friends go for a walk in the woods, and they find this necklace, this kind of ancient, beautiful necklace. And that's me. I find the necklace, and I put it on, and the necklace right away kind of like burns my skin, and you're like, something about this necklace is possessed, right? It's like that's the talisman, and we fucking throw it away or whatever. We go back up to the house, and what happens is I become possessed by this cannibalist. I become a cannibal, and there's a great scene where I kind of pass out at the dinner table, and this beautiful girl kind of touches my. Does he have a pulse? Let's feel it. And she kind of touches. I don't think he has a pulse. And then I take her arm and I bite it. And then I think I spit chunks all over. And we had this kind of concoction of like tuna fish and ketchup, and that we kind of like mix together, and we fucking spit it.
Oh God.
But I also like the idea of another movie that I guess more recently, one of my favorite movies of all time is The Neon Demon, which is,
Oh yeah, love that movie.
I love that movie. I love Nicholas Winding Refn. And, if you're listening, Nicholas, please get in touch, jamie.grefe@gmail.com, and we can do something. We can do some business. But Neon Demon, fantastic. And there's a cannibalistic element that comes out at the end of that movie. And I love the kind of the theory of cannibalism is really interesting too. Just this idea of taking something that's not yours and making it a part of yourself. And so maybe this family in some way, this very vapid Calabasas family with like, maybe there's that's kind of showing, they have there's no depth to them, right? So there's nothing to them really. So therefore they have to go on these quests to consume human beings, to kind of feel alive, right? And I can kind of resonate with that in some way.
Man, I like that, and I feel like you really need to find Meat Salad. We have to watch that.
I might have a copy. I mean, I know some people who probably have a copy of Meat
We should
Salad.
do a live stream where we drink and watch Meat Salad.
we just talk over it. Yeah, let's do it.
What is that? The Mystery Science Theater? We'll do that with Meat Salad.
Let's do it.
There's some friends of mine that might listen to this at some point who are now like college professors, and they're just probably going like, "Oh no, fuck no, please, no,
we will
not show Meat
all.
Salad."
We won't use any real names.
So we do have to talk about two other movies. I know Jerry has some drinking games planned, so I want to get to that. So I'm going to explain to the audience what we're going to do now for those of you who are just tuning in now for the first time. And again, excuse my slurring. This Japanese whiskey, even though it's 86 proof, it's hitting hard. So what we do is we do a drinking game every episode, and what we do is we each rate a movie on a scale of 0 to 5 bloody knives, 0 being not good and 5 being it was amazing. And what usually happens is Jerry selects his rating and I drink the number of seconds that he selected, and vice versa. But since we have a guest on today, what we're going to do is that guest needs to pick one of us to drink with. And so if he picks myself, he needs to drink with me. If he picks Jerry, he needs to drink with Jerry. And then unfortunately for Jerry and I, we need to both drink whatever Jamie wants to. So we are doing double duty now, which I just realized it sucks, but we're gonna do it. So, Jamie, who do you select? And you have to stick with this person for the rest of the program. Choose wisely.
All right. Oh well, I am gonna choose wisely because I feel I have some atoning to do because I basically said We Are Wolves was like a C- production experience. I kind of feeling bad about that right now, Rich. So I'm gonna choose you tonight, Rich, for inviting me on.
Smart
And
move.
I think that was the wrong choice, but okay.
Yeah.
and so how does this go? Do I give the knives and then we kind of go for it too?
So here's what's going to happen. I'm going to start with Jerry's going to give his first. You and I are going to drink. Then I am going to give it. And then, wait, no, hold on. I want to make this fair for Jerry. So, all right, Jamie, you go first. You tell us first. What do you got? What do you rate this 0 to 5?
Gotcha. All right. And can I flex a little creativity just for my own?
Just a little.
Oh, just a little. Perfect. So I'm going to give this. I would love to give this movie 5 knives for originality, and I'm going to give it 2 Bim Bam chocolate bars for any movie fans out there who might get what I'm referencing.
Do you want me to shit my pants? What is?
You remember the Bim Bam
I
chocolate
do
bars
remember
in
the
the
Bim Bam
movie?
chocolate bars.
So I would like to give this 5 knives, or I could say 3 knives and 2 Bim Bam chocolate bars.
So
Damn.
the Bim Bam chocolate bars, for those of you who haven't seen the movie, it is a direct reference to Lowlifes. So Jerry and I are drinking for 5 seconds. That's what's happening. Jamie, I'm never inviting you back. It's your
Let's
last
do it.
time.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Oh, you don't have to drink yet, Jamie. You don't drink yet, unless you really want to.
I'm just drinking for the joy of it.
Yeah, those chocolate bars basically how they poisoned everyone. Great reference.
I thought that was clever in the movie too. I liked that. That was an interesting thing I hadn't seen before. Is they completely incapacitate your victim with chocolate. I thought that was
It
great.
was so bizarre because it didn't really do anything except make them throw up. So like it could have killed them all with like again, it's movie logic, it's cinema, right? It made it very entertaining.
You know what's interesting too is, and I think that's where they got the name of those chocolate bars from, is there was a meme that went around. There is a kind of candy, I think it's Tim Tam, or something like that. And there was a meme that went around where they adjusted the packaging to say includes human flesh on the candy bar. So I think that they borrowed from
that's
that.
interesting.
Yeah. Okay. So now Jerry's going to give his rating, and Jamie and I are going to drink to give Jerry a pause.
So first of all, I want to say I'm very impressed that Jamie gave this a 5, because when I saw the films that he was selecting, I'm like, man, he is going to shit all over my film so bad. He's going to hate every second of it. But I'm really happy that he enjoyed it and it was a good watch for him. So I'm very happy about that. I didn't want to like suggest something that was everyone hated, but I like this film. I watched it twice. I'm going to watch it again. I'm giving it 3.
Okay. All right. 3 seconds, Jamie. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Whew.
Now, this should be easy.
I am not doing well. All right.
After that, this should be easy.
So here's the thing, Jerry. I'm going to give you my rating, and only Jerry needs to drink now. No, so honestly, when I first watched the movie, I was thinking it was a 2. And after this discussion, and I am going to rewatch it again, you know what? No, I'm not going to give it a 3 because I'm going to go with my gut. I'm going to give it a 2.5. So you got to do 2.5 seconds. I'm going to give you.
Man, I was getting nervous. You were building that up.
I think the next time I watch it, I'll probably give it a 3, but I think this time we're going to stick with the 2.5. So it's a little bit up, but. And Jerry's finishing. I think you finished your glass. Okay, cool. So that was Lowlifes, which again you could watch on Tubi. You could watch all the movies we're talking about tonight on Tubi. They're paying us really well to kind of promote them, so I'm gonna do that. So check them out. The next movie we're gonna talk about is Dead Dudes in the House, aka House on Tombstone Hill, aka something else JV said earlier. I don't remember what that was at this point because I'm drunk. But so this is this is another movie I had never seen before, and really interesting. Like right away, like I see the trauma logo at the very beginning of it, so I already had like thoughts before I even watched the movie based on what that was, and I think this movie was definitely it plays into some of the movies Trauma released very early, like Graduation Day and stuff like that. It is not like a Lloyd Kaufman like Toxic Avenger Trauma movie. Luckily, it's not that kind of thing, which is interesting because like when I was in my 20s, I loved those movies. I was a huge fan of Toxic Avenger, Terra Firma, all that stuff. And now as an adult, I can't stand it. It's just like the gross out stuff doesn't work for me. And it's funny. I remember I actually like almost had a job working for Trauma when I was like 21 or 22, and I interviewed with Lloyd Kaufman. It was a super great experience. I was such a fan, and they hired me to do phone sales. I was going to sell, I was going to call video stores and try to get them to take Trauma DVDs, which would have been a fucking terrible job. And I remember like interview with Lloyd, and he was super cool, and I had no experience, so I was like excited they were going to hire me. But he was basically like, okay, I need you to do like 10-hour days, maybe 12 weekends. If we do conventions, like I need you to come and help out. And we're going to pay you $350 a week. And I was like,
Ooh.
I can't even live off of that. I was like, are you kidding me? And then like, I turned down the job, and then he said, okay, we'll give you 400 a week. And I was like, I still can't eat off of that, but thank you very much. And he was like, well, get a roommate. You can figure it out. And I was like, no. But it would have been a cool opportunity, because he was like, well, look, he's like, whenever I'm doing a film, whether it's I need a writer, a director, anybody, I just go to whoever's next to me. And if you're just happen to be here, you'll get opportunities. But sadly, I couldn't take the job. So Jamie, tell us about this movie. What is Dead Dudes in the House about?
What is Dead Dudes in the House about? So Dead Dudes in the House is, and if I may preface it, so Troma did pick this up for distribution, but they did not have any involvement in the production,
Ah,
other than retitling it Dead Dudes in the House. The original title was The House on Tombstone Hill, or The Dead Come Home. This movie is about Abigail Leatherby, who is one of these kind of mythical slashers that inhabits a house, and she inhabits this abandoned house in upstate New York. And there's a group of, I don't even want to call them friends, but they're a group of people, a very, very interesting dynamic group comes to this house. We're going to fix it up. And before they enter the house, they end up desecrating a tombstone that's outside of the house. And as soon as they desecrate the tombstone, let's clear out the trash. She awakens inside the house. That house, she is in that house. It's her space. They enter the house. They soon realize they can't leave the house. They are trapped in a nightmarish space where she's there, and she's a grandmother. And then the movie just kind of unfolds from there.
yeah. One thing I'll say is it does like throw you right into it right away. I think it starts off like with a bang. For me, I think another issue I have with this movie, and again, you take it for what it is, right? Like this is again a low budget, again acquired by Troma, but in that kind of vein of the movies they were trying to do. I think the issue I have with this movie, just like Lowlifes right off the bat, is the tone, and it is odd tonally. And what I mean by that is it's comical, but not funny enough. Like again, I don't know. I guess I feel like for me personally, as a fan of these movies, like if it's gonna be campy, I need to be like full tilt campy. When it's like just kind of in the middle, where it's like part of it's kind of scary in a horror movie, and then part of it's not. My brain just has a hard time kind of reconciling the two. Like I needed it to either be funnier or scarier. And I think there are definitely some cool things about it. Like, I think there's like certain scenes that stuck out for me that I was like, oh, that was really cool. Like there's a scene where the guy's like climbing in the window, and his like hands like get chopped off, and then he falls, and then like they throw the hands down at him, and then they impale him. Like it's like over the top, and I thought that was super cool. I think the lead villain, I guess the grandma, I think was really scary and creepy. And I think the hard time I had with the movie is, so the grandma, when she kills people, they turn into kind of like these zombies, and they like are killers, and they're all kind of goofy and funny. And I think that threw me off. Like they weren't like, she was scary and certain parts of the movie were scary, but then she would kill somebody, and then all of a sudden they would start like acting out like they were in The Shining. Like that one scene where the guy's literally playing Jack Nicholson in the give me the bat scene. And things like that kind of threw me off, where normally I'd be like, if they didn't have that, I think I would have liked this movie a lot better, because it kind of almost reminded me of I forget the year it came out, but the original Night of the Demons, which is one of my favorite movies, and it's campy and like low budget. I love that movie, and this seemed like that, but just that is like more horror focused with some kind of comedic elements, and this was kind of in the middle, I thought, where I wasn't sure what I was feeling. I don't know. That's just me. Jerry, how would you feel about this one?
I thought it was super camp. Very campy. The grandmother I thought was just a guy in a dress, but
Yeah, I
I'm
mean,
glad it
yeah.
clarified it was a mask. But for me, it was a very, very complicated plot for, I think, the talent that was there to execute it. I mean, we have like this grandma ghost killer, we have a haunted house. Anyone that dies turns into a zombie. That is a lot to take on. And
And there's a
I just,
daughter who's like seducing people,
yes, there's a ghost
which was
daughter.
cool. I liked her
It
character.
was, to me, it was just a little bit complicated. I feel like they're like, we're gonna make this one movie and we need to throw in every single thing we like about horror films into this one film, and let's just do it. Because was it a slasher? I don't know. You know, it's like the 80s, late 80s. I mean, it felt like it could have been a slasher, but it just wasn't as fast or fun as a slasher. And then it wasn't as funny as a campy film. I was just a little confused. I think that's the best way to explain how I felt. What I can tell you is I hated every single character. They were all hateful, and I did want them to die as soon as possible. Like there was no redeeming value to any of these characters, and I didn't think they liked each other either. So I thought it was very funny.
Was this the filmmaker's first movie? Because then that would make sense that he's trying to throw everything into one movie.
Yes. So the original movie that he was going to create was called The Road. And The Road was going to be about a group of people who are driving in upstate New York. And they turn down this road, and the road itself wreaks havoc on them. Now, that became a budget problem for him. And he needed to kind of quickly, he had money for a project, and he needed to make a project. So this was born of that situation. And then I think shortly after that, it was acquired by Troma, and he lost control of the rights. Now, Vinegar Syndrome did re-release this. They remastered it. Directors, I don't know if there's a director's commentary, but there's interviews with the actors. It's become a bit of a confusing, lost gem, if you will. I kept it close to me all these years, and it would always be the movie that I would show people. I even showed somebody this movie. I showed a date of mine this movie back in October.
Was there a
Yeah.
second date?
There were multiple dates.
Oh,
She loved the movie.
Then it's
She
a good
loved
movie.
the movie.
If a movie helps you get action or a second date, it's good. I give it five bloody nines.
Just got a half extra
Yeah.
on my billing.
No, I will say about this movie. Look, like I would say that I didn't like it now. I think if I would have watched it 20 years ago when I was again 21, 22, and I was more open to these lower budget, weirder kind of movies, I think I would have appreciated it a lot more. I think coming in now, watching it for the first time without having that nostalgia piece, I think it just didn't have the elements that I need as, the person that I am now to enjoy it. I think again, I think I probably would have been like, I would have loved this movie then, and it's just I'm a different headspace now. One thing that's interesting about this movie, it's like that I'd never seen before, is some of the shots that are in this movie. There's a lot of these long static shots, and it almost seems like the guy just put the camera down and people are just interacting, and they're getting like really close to the camera at some points, like where it's just odd. It's like so bizarre, and I've never seen that before in a movie. And I can't say it's effective or not effective, but it was just, I was like, that's an interesting technique. Like, why is he literally walking right up to the camera and just kind of doing his thing? And it was super interesting. And I never seen that before. So okay, I don't want to move on yet because I know this is like there's a lot to talk about here. However, I have been really nervous about what drinking game Jerry is going to do. So I kind of am trying to like move things along to get to that because I am already fucking not doing well. So Jerry, do you want to do it before we rate this one, or do you want to do it after we rate this one? Like what is your...
I say we do it. Let's do it now. Okay. I think
I'm in a rush to get to this because whenever he is a drinking game, I'm terrified. It's never good for me.
I think this is a good segue because just a few minutes ago, Rich said that he never heard of this film before, and I haven't either. And I find it very, very strange that I had missed this. What a name like that, like in the mom and pop video store. How did I miss this? Right. So this film was 1989, I think was the original release. So I was thinking like, well, what else is out there in 1989 that I was busy watching that I missed this? And so I just started looking around to see what was out there. So this is a game that I created that's for the both of you to play. And since Jamie picked this film and he was watching it in his early ages and he found it when he was young. So apparently he knows what was going on in 1989. So this game is called Was It 1989?
Okay.
And I'm basically going to name some films and you have to guess if it was made in 1989. If you get it right, me and Rich are going to drink. If you get it wrong, you're going to drink. Does that make sense?
Okay, so I don't have to do anything. I just have to sit here and maybe drink.
Well, the first half, yes. And then we're going to see how good you are, because I'm going to leave a few at the end for you to take a guess. And I don't know if that's good or bad because you didn't know about this movie either. So I don't know what the hell you were doing in 1989.
Yeah, you do know what I was doing in 1989 because we were hanging out in 1989. No, wait, actually we weren't. I don't think we were friends yet. But yeah,
we were young. We were very young in 89.
I did so well at the Amityville game you created that I'm not worried. I am worried about what Jamie was doing though, because based on everything we've learned about him, he was into some shit. So like, yeah, he's got a history.
I was 10 years old in 1989, so let's see how this goes. I'm about to drink a lot of this whiskey.
Yep.
Yeah, so you need to pour more.
Let's fill it. Let's fill it up, boys.
So everyone, make sure you're filled up, and it's gonna be really simple. I'm gonna give you a movie, and you just have to say yes or no if it was 1989. That's it. You don't have to give a year.
Are we allowed to ask questions? Or
no, I don't have any answers. I just have movie titles.
All right, Jamie, don't fuck me on this, man. Don't make me try to get these right.
All right.
Okay. I'm counting on you, bro. I'm counting on you.
So for anyone listening, you guys could take Jamie's side or you could take mine and Rich's side, and you could either drink with him or drink with us. If you want to be positive, go with Jamie, because if he gets it right, he doesn't drink. But if you're negative like us, you're gonna be drinking. So here we go. Are you guys ready to start this game?
Yeah, let's do it. Fuck it. No one looks
all right. I'm coming right at the gate. It's all right. Body parts.
I know this movie. Now, it's a blur whether it was 1989 or not, but I am going to say yes, this was made in 1989.
1991. You drink.
All right. All right.
Is that the John Carpenter one? That's what that was?
Yep. All right. We're gonna talk about some trauma shit here. Surf Nazis must die.
Surf Nazis must die. That's a classic. And I'm going to say no.
Whew. Good choice, right?
Yeah, you got it.
Oh wait, so
we drink.
We drink. Okay,
gentlemen, surf Nazis must drink.
I think that was 84 if I had to pick.
87.
I remember creeping around a certain video store and that already being on the shelf. I know I was older when I saw Dead Dudes in the House. Okay,
nice. All right, let's go. All right,
I'm locked in now.
Hellraiser.
This is going to be a real stab, huh? I'm going to say yes.
That's wrong. 1987. You drink.
All right. All right.
So, Jamie, if you would have listened to every Horror Heads episode, we did a Hellraiser episode and we said the year. So it's your fault for not being prepared. So next time you come on, you need to watch every episode that we do, and then you'll know all this stuff.
Jerry, this is what, imagine this, but for 4 days straight, like when you're on set with Rich. It's kind of like that.
Yeah.
And he forces you to drink.
Oh, God. I was on a video call with him for 4 days straight, and that's all we did. All right, let's move along. We got a lot to get through here. Okay, here we go. Ready? Intruder.
Ooh, that's by one of the Coen brothers, isn't it? Or Sam Raimi?
Sam Raimi, yeah.
I am going to say, I am just stabbing in the dark at this point. I'm going to go ahead and say yes, 1989.
You got it right.
Yes, drink, you fuckers.
Go with your gut.
Okay, here we go. Ready? Child's Play 2.
Ooh, Child's Play 2. I'm going to say no on that one.
Damn it, he got it right.
Yes, come on.
He's catching.
Let's go, horror heads.
Jerry, you make these games that fuck you every time.
Yeah, I know. They fuck me up. But it's all right. No, all right. Don't worry. It's gonna get complicated real quick. All right.
Okay.
Ready? 976 Evil.
Ooh.
No.
That is 1989. You got it wrong.
Yeah.
Son of a bitch.
I saw that in the theater, I remember. And yeah, I was a little boy and I saw that in the theater.
Did you?
Yeah.
I know Wynorski did 976 Evil Part 2, which is pretty fantastic. It's one of those weird. Have you guys seen Part 2?
I've never seen Part 2. I've only seen Part 1.
Only once. Okay, here we go. Ready? Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers.
Which I also saw in the theater.
I love that movie so much.
So you should nail this.
But I don't know if it was 1989. Damn it. I'm going to say, shit, that's my favorite Halloween movie, too.
Wait, hold on.
Yes.
we gotta talk about that. How is that your favorite Halloween
that
movie?
Is because
that is like
the little girls is Jamie. And I was a little boy. And I was like, I could identify with her.
Okay. How much whiskey have you had, Jamie?
I drank. I don't. This is.
It's gonna go downhill. We're not halfway through.
Back to the game.
But I'm not even joking. Halloween 5 is. You want to do a Halloween 5 episode?
We don't.
Okay. Well, you, Rich, you do. I'm gonna go. I was at my grandma's house. I rented that on VHS. Damn it! You guys got me all fucked up with these years. I'm gonna go ahead and say no on this one.
You got it wrong. It was 1989.
Shit. All right.
Yeah, because I think part 4 was 1988, and I remember I saw part 4.
Okay.
And then
warheads in your ears.
And then I'll give a throwback to people who have listened
this.
to all our episodes. Is after I saw Halloween 4 in the theater, I remember Mike McGarvey asked me questions about the original Halloween that I got wrong, and then he called me out and made it like I never watched the original Halloween.
Dude, stop calling this guy out. He's getting followers on Instagram because of you, man. He's trending right now from all the promo he's getting from us. All right,
check out episode 5 for that.
Yeah, let me keep going here. Ready? People Under the Stairs.
By the way, what a great podcast. I feel like I've been like kidnapped by two fucking horror heads, forced to drink. People Under the Stairs. I saw that in the theater, actually, I believe.
Same. How old were you?
I don't fucking remember how old I was. I'm going to go ahead and say no on that one, too.
Correct. We drink, Rich.
What was that,
1991. All right, ready? Mm-hmm. A movie I really like, Shocker.
Wait, what? You like that movie too?
Yeah, I saw it in the theater. Yeah,
I saw it too, but I watched it recently.
Craven, right?
Did not hold up.
When did you guys see that one? Did you guys see that one in '89?
You tell me.
I was a kid when I saw it. I can tell you that much. I wasn't 18. I can tell you that.
I tried to watch that recently. It does not hold up. It is really bad.
1989.
He's right. We drank.
Rich, that was a little bitch drink right there. I saw that. Let's go.
All right, so we got Jamie's final one here, and I feel like it's going to be a doozy here. All right, Puppet Master 2.
No one knows. No one saw that.
I saw Puppet. I love those Puppet Master movies. But part 2, huh? God, when did part 1 have came out, huh? I'm going to go ahead and say yes, 1989 on that one.
That would be incorrect. 1991.
Shit. Woo! 91. Damn it.
All right. So I think that was 50-50. I think you did okay. Not bad.
I don't remember. I'm blacked out right now.
But now we're banking on Rich to kind of like bring us home here. So this is either going to be really light for Jamie and myself, or it's going to be really hard.
Hang on. Let me get IMDb up really quick.
It's gonna be hard. You're never gonna guess these films. So are you ready to go?
Game? What are we playing? 1989.
Look, if it's 1989, you say yes or no. If you get it right, we drink. If you get it wrong,
is Rich playing this one? Okay.
Huh?
Is Rich doing this round? All right.
Yeah, I got it.
So if Rich gets it right, we drink. So
all right.
That's it. All right, you ready, Rich?
No. Let's go. Let's do it.
I'm gonna hit you hard. Ready? No one knows the year this movie came out. Near Dark.
87. So I'm gonna say no.
Fuck you.
He totally searched that up.
My hands are here.
We drank. He got it right.
I saw it was in his eyes. You could see like the reflection from.
That's the one I got right. So don't count on me moving forward. People.
All right. Here we go. Ready? Cutting Class.
I'm gonna say it's 1988. No.
It's 1989.
Is it really? Damn.
Yes.
Maybe I saw an early version of it.
Yeah, that's it. But you still drink.
I saw an early version of it. I love that.
Right.
Saw that early version.
Brad Pitt sent me the director's cut of that
in 1988.
All right, you ready?
Yeah.
Popcorn.
Oh man, I'm gonna say no. I think that was 1990 or 1991.
You got it right. We drank.
Nice.
1991.
Another one I saw in theaters, and I actually saw it in theaters, and I haven't seen it since. And I would like to watch it again one day.
I watched it recently. It's not.
Doesn't hold
it does,
up.
It's tough.
Yeah.
It's
I don't
tough
remember
watch.
liking it when I saw it, but
Yeah.
I did want to watch it again.
All right, ready for this one?
No.
Chopper
Okay.
Chicks in Zombie Town.
Oh yeah.
Shit, I don't think I've even seen that one. I know the movie, I haven't seen it. I'm gonna say no.
1989. You got it
Yeah,
wrong.
Okay.
Nice. It's a trauma film. All right, so we were just talking about these earlier today. Sleepaway Camp 2, Rich.
That's 1988.
You got that right. Damn, we drink. So I feel like back in the day, probably not now, but back in the day, this was, I feel like was your specialty. So I don't know if you'd remember, because I don't think it holds up for you any longer, but I'm sure there was a time where you knew all these movies. But Nightmare on Elm Street 5, Dream Child.
Let's see. Trying to go back. I'm gonna say 89.
Got it right. Damn it. We drink.
And yeah, I am a big fan of Nightmare on Elm Street. Even the ones that are terrible, I will watch. I don't care.
I'm getting very low on this drink, which is making me nervous because this is not going in my favor once again.
Yeah.
All right, we got a couple more here, and then this game is going to wrap up. I think it's a lot of fun. Hope
Yeah,
you're
I like
having
this.
fun listening in. Hope you're guessing incorrect and you're drinking at home. So here's a good one. Ready? The Dead Next Door.
I remember you and I watched that
Yup.
at like 2 a.m. one night.
Yup.
The Dead Next Door. I'm gonna say 1988. So I'm gonna say no.
It was 1989. You drink.
Maybe again we watched it early.
We did. We got that screener. Emailed it to us for you.
Which year did you say that was a 1989 one?
89.
So that's interesting because, like I said, one of the titles for this movie was The Dead Come Home. So I feel there's that kind of marketing overlap there. The Dead Next Door is a very similar title.
I love that name. I want to name one of my bands that, but
yeah, it's a great name.
I got outvoted by a bunch of lame people. So if you people are listening, then you lose because these two people just voted for it. Okay, here we go, Rich. You should know this one. Ready? Scarecrows.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I love that movie.
I know you should know it.
I'm gonna say no. 1988.
It is 1988. How do you get? I can't believe you get.
How do you know the year? Jesus.
I have the worst memory at all. I can't remember shit. Like I don't even remember what we're doing right now. But like
you're
I
good.
do remember
you're getting all the
88s
movies. Though. I feel like you just have like some sort of memory for 88 because you are guessing all the 88s. All right, that's like the third 88 you guessed. All right,
yeah,
ready?
So just give me those.
All right, how about this one? Unborn.
I'd never even heard of that movie. I'm gonna say it's 89.
So we drank. It's 91.
Wait, I guess it wrong.
Oh, you said 89.
Yeah.
Oh, you guessed it wrong. I'm sorry.
Jerry just wants to drink.
Shit.
I guess we drink.
I didn't realize you said 89.
Yeah,
okay.
I don't know that movie.
Oh, okay. I thought you were just gonna say yes or no, but you said 89.
I'm
okay,
drunk.
I get
I'm
it.
just saying whatever pops into my head. Be lucky I'm even standing right now.
I'm hearing my own thing. I drank for no reason. So here we go.
We still gotta rate
another movie. We still have another movie to
to
talk about.
Oh,
I have to get iced. There's a whole thing happening here. All right, one more. This is it. This is the final one.
All right, here we go. Before we get to this one, I'm gonna fucking raise the stakes. 3-1.
Okay.
3
seconds.
3-1.
Okay.
I get it right. 3 seconds for you two.
Okay, so I will take you up on that. I hope Jamie does as well.
Got no choice.
I feel like I got it. I feel like
he's got half a bottle left. He's fine.
I feel like I have a good one here, so
Okay.
it may not be as easy as you think it is. Okay, for 3 sips. Was it 1989? Tremors.
Oh fuck! I saw that in the theater. I'm gonna say 1990.
You got it right, guys. 1990.
Yeah,
I gotta finish my drink. I gotta finish my drink.
Shit. All right.
All right. Well, now that Jerry lost his own drinking game, we got to drink a little more. And unfortunately, we do have to rate Dead Dudes in the House. And let's see. Let's have Jamie. Because I know he's good. He recommended this movie, so it's going to be bad. But Jamie, scale of 0 to 5 bloody knives, and again, you could give a half. What do you give Dead Dudes in the House?
It's a very easy answer, Rich. I think.
If you say 5, I'm going to turn off this podcast right now and be done with it.
Okay,
so.
Rich. No, Rich. I'm not even joking, Rich. I published a book called Notes to the Wounded Rooms in 2016. I didn't self-publish it. It was published by Rooster Republic Press. In graduate school, I wrote an essay about this movie that's
Fuck you.
published in that book.
Fuck you.
Fuck you. Fuck me. Fuck Abigail Leatherby. This is getting 5 leathery, bloody knives. That's going straight to your tombstone heart. And you need
Rich,
to
did
drink.
you do any research on this guest here?
No,
You should have known this.
I found him on
You
the
should
street.
have known that this was going to happen. 2 5s. Oh my god!
Anyone who agrees to work on one of my films is probably problematic, and we probably should not have any more of my friends on. But okay, 5. Cheers.
Drink up. You know, you got to drink this one to Abigail. She was stabbed 47 times in the neck.
Oh my god,
that's a lot.
That was
It's very
47.
traumatic. 47 times, and that's 47 drinks you have to take.
Yeah, from now on, Jerry, you pick the guests because my friends are bad news.
Wow. All right, well, I'm going next too.
Oh, we're still doing this? I don't
Yeah,
this is
two.
it. I'm gonna cut it off. We're done. Like I'm going home.
Two bloody knives.
Okay,
for this,
Jamie,
for
you
this
and I
one.
gotta wait. No, who drinks? No, oh sorry, Jamie, you don't drink. Wait, yeah, you drink with me. We both drink too.
Whoever
2 seconds.
drinks,
Yeah.
I don't know. This was. I just wish it was more fun. There was a lot of great kills. There was a lot of good elements to it. I just wish it was just a little more fun and fast.
There was a guy got cut in half by a fucking
I loved
window,
it. I
Jerry.
loved it. I loved it.
He said, oh, it hurts. Oh my god.
I gave Hellraiser 1. So you know.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I'm not gonna. I'm a hater. So.
Yeah, honestly, I'm gonna give this. I am gonna give it a lower score. I'm gonna give it a 1.5, and the reason is there are things I do like about it. I think if I would have seen it 20 years ago, I'd give it more of a 3 or a 4. Me now, I honestly will never watch this movie again. I'm glad I saw it. I won't. Did you do your 1.5 while I was giving my monologue? Jerry drank. Okay, so we're gonna move on now, and we're gonna pivot to something completely different. And this is a movie that I had always meant to see because it ends up on a lot of top 100 movie lists or 1,000 movie, whatever it is. This movie comes up a lot, and it is the 1960 British film Peeping Tom. And apparently, this movie came out, I think, like a month before Psycho. And they're both very similar films in a way. So I think it's really interesting. And this came out before Psycho ended up being the one that people really love. And a lot of that is because of just Hitchcock, number one, being a popular film director. It is more stylistic. It is more cleaner. This film does have a lot of similarities to it, though. And I am glad I really saw it. And it also, I read that it is one of Martin Scorsese's favorite films, which is interesting. And he even did like a director's commentary or intro to the Criterion release. So I will tell you what Peeping Tom is about for those of you who haven't seen it. And again, for the audience, again, if you want to see something that is 1960, more of a classic horror movie, I think this is a good one to check out. And I will tell you the plot. It is about a man named Mark Lewis, who is a bit of a loner. He works at a film studio during the day. At night, he takes racy photographs of women, usually in lingerie. He's also making a documentary on fear, and how he is making that documentary is very similar to something his father did to him when he was a child. Is he is recording people right before they're about to die to see what their reaction is to fear. And when he was a child, his dad made several videos where his dad scared the shit out of him by like putting lizards in his bed or just fucking with him to kind of get that fear response. And now as an adult, he is doing the same thing where he is again killing models and recording them. And he is a very conflicted character and a very interesting character that you could dive into a lot psychologically about. And one thing I will say about this movie, it is considered one of the first slasher movies ever made. One thing I will say about this movie, it reminded me of a movie that is one of my favorite films of all time. It made me think a lot of Maniac, the original Maniac, which again is a classic, especially the opening scenes where a lot of the scenes, especially in the beginning, are through a camera lens where you see point of view of the killer through a camera as he's recording people, as he's stalking them and killing them. Again, which made me think of Maniac, and any movie that makes me think of that movie, I am somewhat of a fan of. And I wouldn't say I love this movie because again, it is 1960 and something you need to be in the mood for. But I do appreciate this movie for what it is, and I do think it was groundbreaking for the time. I'm going to pause. I have a lot of things to talk about in this movie. I'm going to pause to let other people jump in because I could go on and on about this movie. So, Jamie, you recommended this movie. We'll get to you in a second as to why you recommended this, but I would love to hear Jerry's thoughts because we have not discussed what he felt about this one.
What a sick premise. I mean, 1961. That's twisted. You know, just for them to kind of break ground on a lot of like these concepts that I don't think have ever been introduced in any film before. It starts with like a modern slasher with a kill within the first couple seconds. And as you mentioned, I did some research about this. They claim that they were not the first, but they were one of the first. But just like that view from the killer's perspective. I mean, I just thought this film looked fantastic for the year. I just couldn't believe I was watching a film from the 60s. It was just too sharp and beautifully shot for me to like. I forgot really fast like what year this was actually made. I'll just go really briefly into it. I thought there was a ton of character development, which I thought was interesting. I was nervous they were going to hit like that 70s kind of style where a lot of like nothing happens and it's just mundane. I don't think they did that. I think they filled that with a lot of interesting psychology and character development. And I did like the main character. What was his name?
Mark Lewis. Yeah,
Mark Lewis. Yeah, just
that's the
just like
character.
that.
The actor was Carl Boehm, if I'm pronouncing it correctly.
I liked him a lot. I mean, he was like unusually handsome, which was like really disarming for like his victims. Seems like a very normal guy, a very Jeffrey Dahmer type. I thought it was great. I thought it was super interesting. I didn't know what to expect coming into this. I was probably prepared for like the worst, most boring thing that I could imagine. I was shocked by the how dense this movie was with plot and character development, and really some things that I'm sure horror movies, thousands of horror movies have copied over the years. So I thought it was a really interesting film.
Yeah, before we get to you, Jamie, just a couple of things on what you just said is one of the first notes I wrote is how vivid and colorful this movie was. And certain shots almost look like a painting to me. Like the cinematography was so fucking good in this movie. And it was
Gorgeous.
unexpected. Like right when I turned it on, I was like, whoa. I'm like, because I'll be honest, like when Jamie recommended this, I trust his opinion, but I was like, I know I wanted to see this movie, but I'm like, okay, it's gonna be 1960s, it's gonna be boring. There's gonna be, like you said, the 1970s where there's just that half hour, 40 minutes where nothing happens. And that did not happen. This, again, it is a little slow moving if you think about a movie in 2024 versus a movie in 1960. But if you take that into account, it's not. There's a lot going on. And I think the acting is just really good. I think the storytelling is really good. There's a lot of moments where you're really locked into like, oh my God, like what is going to happen? Like there's a certain scene where the killer had killed somebody and like left them on a film set, and then the cops are kind of examining it and he's watching.
Twisted.
Yeah, he's watching and recording the police like doing the investigation, and he's up high and he drops like some pens, and like there's that super tense moment. And there's a lot of things that are like where you think he's going to kill one of the females in the movie, and you just don't know. Like there's these long interaction scenes where he's again photographing a female or a model or someone, and you're like, he's getting really close to like, I'm gonna fucking kill this person, but then he pulls back, and it's like, it's so uncomfortable. Like they did a great job of just creating that mode where you don't know what's gonna happen, but you're scared the whole time because you're like, is he gonna kill this person, or is he gonna like have a moral dilemma or something like that? And they did a really good job of balancing that. And they don't show the kills really. I think up until it gets later in the movie, like a lot of it's like cut because again, 1960, right? So they're not showing the actual violence, but they set it up in such a way that it is impactful, and even though it's not graphic, it does feel that way. And apparently, like again, there was public outcry over this film when it came out. It was pulled from British cinemas within 5 days. They were like, no, we're taking this movie out of theaters. It was like severely, even the cut that existed was severely cut from the original. Apparently, there was a lot more, some nudity and some other stuff and violence and things that they had to take out. And apparently, this is one of the first mainstream British movies to actually show female nudity. And it depends on what cut you have, but there is a scene where you do see a character's breasts really quick, and that is cut out of some versions. But one of the first times it's ever happened in British cinema. So this movie pushed a lot of boundaries, and like you said, Jerry, I would guarantee that any slasher film that was made in the 80s like was probably influenced, or 70s was probably influenced by this movie in some way. So I do think it's something that it's like one of those movies, whether you like it or not, it's like a must-see movie, I would say. Everybody
Groundbreaking
should
for
watch this
sure.
movie. Yeah. Jamie, like, so you recommended this movie, and I think Jerry and I just kind of praised it a bit, which I didn't expect to. I didn't think we were going to praise this movie at all, and we did. So, like, why did you tell us to watch this movie? Like, what was out of all the movies you could have picked, and you could have picked thousands of movies, you picked this one. Why?
I don't know why I recommended this movie at this point in time, but I am so glad I did. Just to hear your reactions really actually makes me happy, because I really felt like when I rewatched it, because I haven't seen this either in like 20 some years. It is like, why the fuck did I recommend this movie? Like, I have no idea. But there's so much that I pulled out of it watching it again. I mean, I do remember the camera. I remember him walking towards the victims. I remember he had a blade on the end of his camera.
Yeah, on
And
the
that just
tripod. That was sick.
on the
That was like
tripod,
really
it's
cool.
fucking sick.
Yeah.
It's so cool. But I forgot how charming he is, and how conflicted he is, and how like just like perfectly touching he is. And there's something about this watch of the movie for me really affected me after I watched it. I was really thinking about the movie, and I was thinking about the ending of the movie, and his death at the end of the movie is like, for him, was like the perfect thing he could do. I mean, it was so touching. It was it was like his art. Like, he lived his art. Like, as tortured as he was, he couldn't see, he had one way out of that torture, but he kind of like got a taste of that, right? Like when he went on the date, but he was so kind of transfixed by like that love of his father and like what his father had done to him, that he really embraced his own death, which I thought was like so beautiful. But maybe there's something that stuck with me, which is the idea that it's a line from the movie when they're talking about peeping toms and voyeurism, is they say the morbid urge to gaze. And I just thought, wow, like, isn't that like what that is what we do when we watch movies, right? We have this morbid urge to gaze at whether it's Lowlifes or Dead Dudes in the House or Peeping Tom or whatever. And I feel like this movie really kind of turned it back towards the audience and created like a space where people could feel that fetishism coming from it. They could feel like the camera, those crosshairs of the camera moving towards like the semi-nude body. And then that kind of divide between eros and death. And I think this movie hits it so nicely at a certain time, very, like we said, it's very restrained, it's very colorful, it has a different tone, but what an artifact, right? I'm just happy you guys enjoy it. There's no real reason I chose it. It's really an act of God, if I may. And let's have a drink. We haven't drank in some minutes. So
All right, I will cheers to that.
I would like, no, I would like to have a drink to the morbid urge to gaze, as
Love it,
as we do when we watch horror movies or any movie. So here we are, gentlemen.
I love a guest who makes Jerry and I drink, because that is odd.
It's
Usually it's us pushing it. I was gonna say just two quick things as to what you just said. Is one is well, the first thing is to what Jerry said is this was not, although it's credited in Scream 4, they say this is the first movie to have that POV, killer's point of view technique. And I will give the fact that was done in two movies called The Lodger and Hangover Square, neither of which I saw. However, those were apparently the two movies.
What year was same year, or was it
I
sooner?
didn't look that up, but those are apparently the first two movies to do the killer point of view. But I do think this was supposed to be credited as the first slasher movie. And what Jamie said about the twists in the movie, and I do think the ending is really beautiful and was unexpected. It makes sense completely, like why he would do the death that he did. I think for me, when I watched the movie and I realized, because they hint when he's killing the various women, they all seem very afraid of something, and you're not really sure why. And then in the end, you find out the reason why they're afraid is because he's showing them a mirror of their own death. So these people see themselves getting killed. And to me, I was like, holy shit, that blew my mind. And I was like, that is fucked up. Because the whole movie, I'm like, what are they freaking out about? Like, other than like, okay, there's a blade on the end of this tripod. When I saw that, I was like, holy shit, this is like next level depravity that I was not expecting in, again, this movie from 1960. Like, so that I thought was really fucking cool. And then, yeah, Jerry, I know I cut you off. So.
I mean, just the topics that they tackled in this. I mean, voyeurism, suicide, depravity. I mean, just all these I mean, they put a lot into this character that was handsome and seemed kind on the outside. And then as you just dig like deeper and deeper, and you get like the backstory about, how his father treated him and how his mother kind of passed. You're not quite sure how that happened either. And I thought that was a little, suspect right there. I don't know if it was, if the father had anything to do with that. But you take like all those elements and you put into this one character, you're like, wow, this person's really fucked up. And they just don't show it on the outside. It's hidden so well. And you just let it go in like little tiny parts that they kind of leak it through, like when he sees like that couple like in the park and it looked like they were like kissing, and he just stops and he has to look at them. And then like, he's kind of filming like these porno videos, which is not really something normal for someone, to do at that time. And then for him to come up with these videos and watch them, the guy's sitting at home watching, like, for his entertainment, he just wants to get home. And like he's like us, he's just like, I gotta watch a movie tonight. He's not watching the movie we're watching. He's watching some movie where like someone is about to die, and this is what he wants to constantly like recreate and build in his head. And I mean, it's just so depraved. And I just was not expecting that level from 1961 to be like, oh my God, this is insane. Like, on the outside, quick view, it's pretty tame. It's a pretty tame movie. But when you look at like how much was packed into it and you really like start thinking about it, like I was thinking about this movie the next day and I was like, man, that guy was really fucked up. I'm like, I can't believe he did all that. And I'm then like, then I can't believe he killed him. So like it was just so like, it was just so crazy. Was not expecting that from this film. Like, honestly, my first opinion is like, oh, this is kind of like a Hitchcock kind of episode where it's kind of like face value and you're gonna get a kind of a story from like start to finish, and there's really not going to be a lot of mood and tone. But then just as it like unpacked, I was like, wow, this like we're watching the story of like the sickest, craziest madman I've ever seen, and unbelievable, because when you compare it to other things from like the 60s, like, it's like the Twilight Zone, like they would never tackle something like this.
It's interesting. It's like whenever you think of a movie and they're older movies and you think like, how would this possibly be interesting? How could this be sick and depraved? Like, because most of the things we're experienced that we are exposed to are not. And then you see something like this and you're like, yeah, like, holy shit. And it makes me think of, I think for your challenge last year or the year before, I watched Eyes Without a Face for the first time, which I think was around this time. And that was another movie that was like really fucked up. It was black and white. I think it was French. But again, it was tackling a lot of things that you're like, wow, they were thinking about this back then, or they had the balls or like to do it. And then again, you look at this movie and again, 1960 or 61 or wherever it was, and it gets banned all over the place, right? Because they weren't ready for something like this. But it's always such a surprise because again, you think like, oh, I gotta watch a movie that's 50 or sorry, 60 years old, and it's more fucked up than some of the, even though it is tame, quote unquote, it's in the premise of it is more fucked up than a lot of the shit you see, like just psychologically, which is super cool. So I think it just makes you think that, just because a movie is older doesn't mean it needs to be hokey or, not relevant. It's like we should give everything a chance and just think about like, if it wasn't for this movie, there's so many movies that probably would not have been made. And I think you need to appreciate it on that level too. It's like, again, you got to take it for a grain of salt. Like for those of you at home who are like, I only want to watch like these kind of movies, like fine, but like give something like this a chance where you could see like influences come from, and something when this came out was something they had never seen before. Like no one had done this. Like this was, now we see these kind of movies. We're like, oh shit, like yeah, another movie about a stalker or another movie about this or blah blah blah. This was like the first time anyone had ever seen this kind of shit. And if I'm in 1960s going to the theater and this is what I see, like I'm fucking blown away. Like I'm not gonna personally give this movie Five Bloody Knives because like I'm watching it with my point of view. If I'd seen it in 1960, this might be the best movie I've ever seen. Like you know what I mean? Like it's that like different and groundbreaking, I guess. So I thank you, Jamie, again for recommending this. A couple of things I will say about this movie, just because like we're talking about how great it is and everything like that. I just have to address the director, Michael Powell. Apparently sounds from what I've read on IMDb is a piece of shit. And apparently like he was terrible. And a couple of examples, because I have to give the point of view of this. Apparently a couple of things happened where one was the actress Pamela Green, he had used a certain type of lights near her that apparently like were so bright and powerful they burned her skin. And she complained, and he was just like, I don't give a fuck. You're gonna sit here and you're gonna deal with that. And it really, she was scarred. And then the next day, like the makeup artist had to cover it up, and he was like, I don't care. And other things that happened that when she was doing her nude scene, apparently he may have done this as revenge or just didn't give a shit, but apparently invited all of these people to come to set who were not part of the production, including children, to watch her nude. And like, she complained about it, and he was just like, well, too bad, you got to deal with it. And he apparently had all these people come in to watch her nude scene, which again, 1960, people weren't getting naked in movies. This is very different. And he brought in all of these other guys and everybody to lurk, and apparently other people were taking pictures. And again, children were there to like see her, and she just went with it because she was like, I guess I got to. So apparently, like, again, and this apparently this movie did ruin the director's career, I think, where like people typecast him and wouldn't let him make other movies for a while. But it does sound like he was a bit of a piece of shit and not a great person. But he did make some art, so
I
we
mean,
have
if
to
this
like,
is the film he made, I wouldn't expect like, you know,
I
the
don't know. I
best
make
guy
dark
on
films, and I'm not a piece of shit. Jamie,
earth.
was I on
Well,
We
you're
Are
a little bit of
Wolves,
a
which
piece of
is a
shit.
very, yeah. Well, I'm okay. I'm a piece of shit, but Jamie, on We Are Wolves, which is like BDSM females, I was very kind to those actresses, and they were all
You're
very,
very
and they're all going to work with
you
me again. So no, but you have to separate art from the person, right? Because like again, there's a lot of people.
Yeah.
Most people are pieces of shit, and you got to deal with it. I just had to address that. But this guy did make a piece of art that is timeless, and whatever you want to say about Michael Powell as a person or a direct, like whatever, he made a movie that is groundbreaking and influential, and I think will be studied for years to come. So you just got to give both sides of it, right? So people can make their own decisions.
it's also very like like that sadism that kind of came from his personal side doesn't surprise me, because I mean the movie is very sadistic, and he's inhabiting this space of that kind of fetishistic, sadism, like whether it's, the woman who turns towards the camera and her lips cut, and he's suddenly, Mark is just fascinated by that and wants to show that crystal clear. Remember that near the beginning of the movie? And he's just like, no, no, no. He's like, I want it. He gets very turned on by seeing how ugly she is. I mean, there's that like kind of exposure to ugliness that's almost like one note I wrote was like director as slasher, director as murderer, right? Like, I mean, this movie, Mark at one point says, whatever I photograph, I lose, And so he's aware of this fact that the camera is kind of capturing something that's kind of like, in his capturing of it, it'll never be the same again. And even recently, David Cronenberg screened his newest movie, Shrouds, at the Cannes Film Festival, and he said something about cinema being a way to kind of experience dead people. You can watch this movie and you can hear a dead person, if they're no longer living, for example. You can see a dead person, and you can kind of have this experience of that experience. And almost like, I feel like we kind of lose that. And it's funny because I think this movie kind of taps into that almost magic of what does happen when a camera catches something at a certain place, a certain time, with a certain power that we forget about. And Mark was, like we said, transfixed by the celluloid. The image was more real than anything. It completely consumed his life, and he completely was driven by that morbid urge to gaze, if you will.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. And the two things I'll say to that is, number one, it's like you could do that and still be a human being to your cast and your actresses and your crew.
Absolutely.
But I will say, like, to top on the Cronenberg piece of it is, yeah, I agree. And I think one of the reasons why, when I made my first film, I made a film, Sociopathia, like many, many years ago, and I kind of self-funded the movie, and I was like worried about the risk, and I never knew anything about making a movie. I like been on sets, but had never really gone and done it. And I was like, the one thing that drove me was, I was like, I'm gonna make this one thing, and no matter what, it's going to exist forever. Whether it's good or bad is a whole nother thing, but I'm going to make this thing, and after I'm dead, this thing will still exist somewhere, and maybe no one will ever see it again because they don't give a shit, but like it will be in the world, and maybe someone discovers the DVD or blah blah blah. But you do something, whether it's a photograph or you make a movie, and it's forever. And again, some things get lost to time and it happens, but like that was a driving force for me, is I'm going to make something that's going to live beyond me. And it's like, you see, again, we're all going to be dead at some point, and we're all captured in this one 90-minute kind of thing, which I think is really beautiful. And I love that kind of thought process of like, you are capturing a moment in time. Getting back to Lowlifes too, we talked about it's like a moment in time. Like in a year, is anyone going to think about Lowlifes? Maybe not. Like most of us are going to forget this movie because we saw it and we forgot, we moved on to other shit. It's a moment in time where like we're experiencing it right now, hopefully together as a group.
Well, and you mentioned that Martin Scorsese did a director's commentary of Peeping Tom. Is that
so
right?
I just looked it up. He didn't do a director's commentary, but on the Criterion release, he did an intro where he said it's one of his favorite films of all time.
Do you know what another one of his favorite films are, which is really interesting? Dead Dudes in the House.
What?
Get out of here. Are you serious?
No, I'm absolutely...
How drunk are you, Jamie? He's
I'm
pretty drunk. Okay, but we can Google that. But yeah, no, really. Are you serious? You've seen that movie?
I'm about 1989 drunk right now. No. I'm just joking. I'm just fucking with you.
Oh, so okay. I was like, wow, really? He's seen that movie?
But you know, that's interesting that you mentioned the director of Peeping Tom being a piece of shit, because there was one point in the movie, 31 minutes in, where I don't know if you remember this, but so in the movie they're making a commercial, right? That's the same kind of set where Mark murders that woman. But there's a scene in 31 minutes into the movie where the director kind of makes that actress do a take over and over again until she actually faints. And when she actually faints, when she actually physically exhausted,
he's like, that's a take. Yeah,
he's like, that's a take. And this is before like anybody's talked about like Stanley Kubrick, you know, doing like hundreds of takes for The Shining or something. This is like, he hit that really hard. And I remember watching that going, well, that's sadistic too. Like there's so many things that kind of reveal themselves in this movie. Like the fact that the girl that likes Mark is making a very wonderful children's book about like the magic of the camera. It's called like The Magic Camera. Like she's making this absolutely like angelic, you know, innocent kind of viewpoint that he just can't, like, I think he can kind of understand it, but he embraces it from a completely different like point of view. Like for him, he's obviously doing, like, he's living his truth as well, which is like fascinating. You know, that's what makes this movie so complex.
And the scene you were saying with the director, it's like funny because I was like thinking like, oh, Michael Powell's making fun of directors who go over the top, but yet he was probably even worse than that, which I was like, that's interesting because like I saw that and then I did the research and I was like, oh, like you're literally worse than this piece of shit we had in the movie.
Well, this movie also one line I wrote down that I just got to share is just so fucking cool, which is at the end of the movie, right before he dies, he's like about to kill himself and he's like, I'm afraid. And I'm glad I'm afraid. And then he kills himself.
Well, that was his thing. Like, he wanted to capture
it. He wanted to capture it. Yeah.
Shit. You're like,
couldn't watch it though.
But it's also like us watching a horror movie, experiencing that love of being, that fear and the nervous. That was his dad's research, was fear and the nervous system. So it's almost like as we're watching horror movies, we're very happy to inhabit that space. It gives us that happiness. So I think there is some kind of voodoo at work here that was kind of tapped into back in the 60s. That was like, he got it. You know what I mean? He understood it. And luckily, despite his piece of shittiness as a director, he put it into this film for us, you know? And then I think the last line of the movie is, good night, Daddy, hold my hand. You know, and you're just like, what the fuck? You're like, that's like even transcends everything. It's just like, suddenly you're back to like a father as the, you know, the love of the father, you know? It's like, wow. You're like, what did I just watch? You know?
Twisted movie.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing you can do after that is get a camera, go out into the night. Am I right, gentlemen? A little knife on it.
Well, is that what you're doing?
That's what. So something is in development. Let me tell you, you'll be hearing about it in the papers pretty soon. The Calabasas Times, if you will.
Okay, so like here's the thing. Like I would love to keep talking about this movie and other movies with you both, but I literally realized I'm probably gonna pass out if I keep drinking. So like
Amazing.
I do want to wrap this up. And again, I drank really heavily during this episode, and I'm happy that I did, but I am fucked up. So I'm gonna let's wrap this one up, and I could probably talk about Peeping Tom for another hour. But Jamie, and if you give this one 5 bloody knives,
He's giving it 5. He's giving
I'm
it
literally
5.
gonna fucking
It's
fight you the next time I see you.
This is a 5. This is a 5.
I know he's gonna give it a 5. I know he's because if he gave the other two a 5, he's gonna give this one a 5, and Jerry and I are fucked.
Hold on, I got to refill my glass for a second.
All right. So here's the thing, Jamie. If you give this movie a 5, you need to work for free on my next film that's shooting next month.
Oh shit! Here we
So
go.
be careful. If you want to work for free for me,
this is how Rich does it. This is Rich Mallery, director of Peeping Tom Part 2.
I need an AD. I'm shooting 2 movies next month. So if you want to give us a 5, no, I'm kidding. Do what you want. Be honest. Give me what you want. What do you got?
Well, I did, Rich and Jerry. I do have to humbly apologize because I absolutely do want to give this movie 5.
You can,
no, man,
you can.
Go with it. Go with it.
I want to give it 5 knives that kind of stick out of a tripod.
Oh,
so we didn't see any blood in the movie, right? So I don't think we even saw any blood, right?
No, we're
not allowed.
Damn, there wasn't any from his neck right at the end.
I don't think so.
Not even a trickle.
I don't even know if they were. Maybe that was some kind of censorship thing where they weren't allowed to show.
I thought I saw something.
Maybe did you see it? I'm going to give it 5 trickling knives. And
cheers,
Rich. We can talk about your movie. You're a joy to work with on set. You're a joy to work with.
I love how Jamie drank with us, even though he didn't need to.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. You're about to drink now, actually, but you didn't need to. So Jerry and I just drank 5 seconds. I am completely hammered. I am going to. All right, Jerry, what's your? This went off the rails fucking 2 hours ago. But what are you going to give this movie?
This is one of the most fun episodes I've ever had, Jamie. It was great having you here. Definitely negotiate with Rich. He's cheap as fuck. So just I know him for most of my life. I'm not getting to a contract.
I don't pay.
I'm not getting into a contract.
He was so hard to work with.
I'm not gonna.
I'm a fucking nightmare. But I'm an artist.
But he's an auteur, so he's amongst friends here. Listen, shockingly, I wanted to hate this. I want to hate every second of it. I didn't want to like it. I was like, what are these films that I'm being forced to watch? I was wrong. I have no problem saying when I'm wrong. I like the film, and I think I will watch it again. I'm giving this one 3.5. I thought it was great.
All right, cheers, Jamie and I. 3.5.
There we go.
I'm drinking with you because I'm drunk too.
Actually, wait, Jerry, pause. Hold on, let's all pause. Because I actually also am going to give it a 3.5. Because same thing as you, I wanted to watch this movie, but I was like, I'm not going to like it, but I'll watch it because blah, blah, blah. And I really loved the movie, and I'm going to give it a 3.5 too. So why don't we all cheers? Well, I just drank for a second. I know Jamie, you did too. We're going to do 3.5 more seconds because fuck it. No one lives forever. Let's do it. Cheers.
YOLO.
Cheers. I did something very simple. I made them watch their own deaths. I made them see their own terror as the spike went in. And if death has a face, they saw that too.
Oh my god. Okay.
Love the monologue.
That was good.
That was it.
I'm gonna wrap it up because again, this did go off the rails. I don't even know what I'm doing anymore. Jamie, thank you so much for coming on with us. Jamie, how do people find you if they want to or discover your
Absolutely.
art? What's your promote yourself? Tell me what you got coming up. What do you got?
Let's do it. Well, like I said, there's a big project in development that's kind of like a little quiet, but if you want to get in touch with me for whatever reason, whether you want to talk art or movies or writing or whatever, you can always visit me at my website, just Jamie, JAMIE Grefe, GREFE.com. You can follow me on Instagram. It's a private account, but go ahead and send me a request. Send me a little message if you want to. That's just at Instagram at Jamie Grefe, all one word, JAMIE Grefe. Probably those 2 places are probably the best.
And then Jamie, do you have any other scripts that are coming out anytime soon, or things we can get into production? Or I know you talk about directing. Like to me, you were going to direct like a slasher, slumber party massacre kind of movie. Anything you want to talk about?
So yeah, like I have a slasher script which is very heavily influenced by your favorite movie, Sledgehammer, and your second favorite movie, Dead Dudes in the House, with a little bit of
meat salad.
Yes, thrown in with a little bit of meat salad. I do have a screenplay
Meat
out there.
salad.
I don't know if it's going to get made anytime soon, but it is completed, and it's a possibility. But otherwise, Rich, to be honest with you, I've been working really hard on the secret project, which has been very exciting. And when I'm ready to unveil it, maybe I'll unveil it. But if anybody wants to get in touch involving film work, writing, directing, assistant directing, whatever, just reach out.
All right, so check out Jamie Grefe. He's an awesome person and someone who survived with us tonight.
Oh, you guys are too kind, by the way. Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. I don't know what we're going to talk about the next episode. Jerry and I need to figure that out, but we will. And yeah, fuck it. Have a great night, man. I'm ready to. I'm gonna finish the rest of this.
Well, you're obligated to have me back on at some point, you motherfucker. So if I'm gonna work on your movie for free, okay,
you'll be back.
Then I'm coming back on this fucking podcast. Okay.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Have a good night. See you all later.